Coming up on BCN today, the city and school divisions come to a one-year busing agreement. Plus, China's death toll rises from the coronavirus while Canada says its 2 cases are contained. And local athletes feel the loss of an NBA legend.
Your Canada. Your Southern Alberta. Your stories. From our studios in the heart of Lethbridge, it's BCN Today with Jeanette Roche.
Hello, thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. The city of Lethbridge will not be conducting a 2020 census. The decision was voted on unanimously by City Council on Monday.
What the provincial government has announced is that they're going to use the federal census, and they will make some form of an adjustment. So our city clerk advises that there will be a consultation process, but it's going to be important for the city of Lethbridge. The last federal census was conducted in 2016, so 4 years ago. We can safely say that the city of Lethbridge has grown by 8,000 people since 2016, and it's important that federal funding for transportation, what we refer to as gas tax money, and federal and provincial money for infrastructure keep up with the growth of a city like Lethbridge.
The city has conducted a census almost every year since 1954. The Lethbridge Public and Holy Spirit Catholic School Divisions have until July 31st of 2021 to figure out a new student busing agreement. The new one-year busing deal was approved by City Council yesterday.
We would start with a feasibility study. We need to transfer employees. We need to not transfer employees, we need to get employees. We need to apply to the government to be a transportation provider. We need to move, we have a lot of buses that we need to determine ownership for. There's many things that we have to do in order to move forward, and it just couldn't be done before June.
We keep our joint use agreements. We've worked together, as they said, for 60 years. And here we are hoping for another 60. As the school boards, we keep, I think, first and foremost, the children. And the transition, and as Clark again mentioned, it's a long process to take over this transportation for a variety of reasons. But we look forward to working together and do the best we can with what we've got.
Boss says the extension will allow for the best possible solutions for parents, students, and employees. The death toll from the new coronavirus that originated in Wuhan, China has risen to 106, with more than 4,500 cases confirmed. The virus can cause pneumonia and other severe respiratory symptoms. More than 50 million people in Wuhan and nearby cities are being kept in place in the most far-reaching disease control measures ever imposed. Ottawa is now recommending that Canadians avoid travel to the region, but is continuing to reassure everyone the risk of catching the disease is minimal. Canada's top public health official says the second presumed positive case of the new coronavirus in Canada shows the virus is following a reassuring pattern, and Canadians don't need to panic. Dr. Teresa Tam says the 2 new cases are a married couple from Toronto and shows the virus is transmitted through prolonged exposure, not casual contact.
Ontario now has 2 cases. One has just been, as of this morning, confirmed by the National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg, and that is the male who's at Sunnybrook. The wife now is considered presumptive confirmed, i.e. Her test is positive at the Public Health Ontario laboratories, and specimens are being sent to the National Lab for final confirmation. We also have 19 persons under investigation for whom results are pending, and we have ruled out about 15 or 16 as well. So the good news here is that there is ongoing active monitoring. People are self-identifying, and we continue to make sure the system is working.
According to Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health, there are no confirmed cases of the coronavirus in our province. Some of you may have been asking, what are the symptoms associated with the virus? According to the World Health Organization, this new virus causes a fever, fatigue, sore throat, and dry cough in the early stages of the disease. As the illness progresses, patients may experience difficulty in breathing. And despite concerns over the coronavirus, people in Vancouver celebrated the Lunar New Year with a parade of lion dancers, firecrackers, and delegations of police, firefighters, and community associations from across the city. At least one other event in the Vancouver area was canceled over fears of the virus. Federal NDP leader Jagmeet Singh also attended the celebration. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board says the helicopter carrying basketball great Kobe Bryant, his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, and 8 others was not equipped with a flight recorder. They're not required on choppers. Investigators are trying to determine if the heavy fog in the area was a factor in Sunday's crash. The NTSB says an iPod found in the wreckage was apparently being used for weather updates, flight planning, and tracking. The former NBA star had an impact on many basketball players' lives, including those with the Lethbridge College Kodiaks.
You know, I've been a Lakers fan since I can remember, and obviously Kobe Bryant was drafted in 1996, which is the same year I was born, and so my whole life I've grown up watching him, being influenced by him. He's one of the players that made me love basketball, and so it's obviously really shocking and tragic to have that happen unexpectedly, and it's tough for me to wrap my head around.
Well, personally for me, like, Kobe was one of the guys that made me fall in love with the game of basketball, and basketball has had such a huge impact on my life, so I just feel like grateful that he had some influence on me. He was a huge motivator. Obviously his work ethic was legendary, so was really inspiring. Finding out yesterday was really tough.
Prayers to his family as well as the families of the other victims involved, hoping that they can have the strength to get through this difficult time.
The University of Lethbridge is renaming its Elders Room in honor of former elder in residence, Carola Calf-Robe. The ceremonial event took place Monday.
It is a very sad but memorable time today. We heard a bit of stories from her. We also had our president, Mike Mann, our chancellor, Charlie Weaselhead, our elder in residence, Francis First Charger, Ninasipistu here, honoring Carola and her family. We had many members of their family here today.
I am just so grateful that all of the work and knowledge that she has was truly appreciated. Hearing all of the people speak about her has been so heartwarming. And, just hearing people talk about the impact that she had on the entire university and the community here and the sense of belonging, it really just lifted our spirits today.
Calf-Robe served at the University Elder in Residence for 11 years until she passed away in May of 2019. Southern Alberta has attracted a grown visual artist of all stripes. The newest exhibit at the Galt Museum and Archives focuses on the works of 2 prolific Southern Alberta painters, Michael Pisco and Ernest Reithman.
The historical value about this exhibition is the fact that, Lethbridge had an art community, a visual art community here very early on. The Lethbridge Sketch Club was formed in about 1937, and then after that, they continued to be very active. And although they didn't have like an exhibition space, an art gallery or whatever, they did get their art out to other parts of the country. I mean, Ernest Reithman, who also did some teaching at the club, I mean, his work was at one point sent to Europe for exhibition. So these weren't just isolated artists who were working in the middle of nowhere. Lethbridge was not in the middle of nowhere. It was somewhere.
A Painter's Paradise will be open until May 10th. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney says the UCP may pull funding or move the location of our province's supervised consumption sites. Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman says that that may not be the answer. He says the SCS is needed along with more funding for proper counseling, intox, and detox beds for those who are battling addiction.
The supervised consumption site offers a possible route to treatment and recovery because they're in regular contact with 1,100 users. If we actually got the services we've been advocating for more than 5 years, if we had adequate detox, if we had adequate intox, if we had supported housing for people with mental health and addiction issues, and if we had long-term treatment and care, in addition to the supervised consumption site, we'd be much better off.
Catch the full interview with Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman discussing the SCS and how the city is dealing with an increase in drug crime. That's coming up later in our newscast. Alberta's Premier says Prime Minister Justin Trudeau needs to move swiftly to approve the Tech Frontier oil sands mine north of Fort McMurray. Jason Kenney says there's no reason to delay the go-ahead of the $20.6 billion project near Wood Buffalo National Park. A federal provincial review last summer determined Frontier would be in the public interest, even though it would be likely to harm the environment and Indigenous people. Kenney says his government's new Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation will provide money to First Nations groups to help them invest in major resource projects. We ran a poll recently on Twitter and asked you who you thought should become the new leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Your choices were Peter MacKay, Erin O'Toole, Marilyn Gladue, and other. Well, 60% of you felt that Peter MacKay is the best choice to lead the Tories. 30% of you said other, and only 10% of you felt that Erin O'Toole is the best candidate. If you're on social media, please follow Bridge City News on Twitter and Facebook. As Parliament resumed Monday, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said premiers and business leaders want the new NAFTA ratified quickly as the government introduces the first of 2 bills to finalize the Continental Trade Pact.
We recognize that this is an important issue for the Canadian economy. There's thousands and millions of workers across the country who rely on NAFTA, on secure access to the United States. We heard the premiers loudly and clearly saying they wanted ratification quickly. We've heard from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. Yes, we're going to have debate and study in the House of Commons, but we're also going to focus on ratifying it.
And south of the border, Senate Republicans said President Trump's impeachment trial will backfire on Democrats and harm former Vice President Joe Biden's presidential candidacy. Democrats are calling for testimony from former National Security Advisor John Bolton.
We have record unemployment here in the United States. We have a booming economy. People in Iowa are thrilled that we have the USMCA being signed and that we have trade deals done with China. There is so much going on, good and positive for this country.
A massive fire killed at least 8 people and destroyed dozens of boats in an Alabama marina early Monday. A fire chief says more people could be dead because some may have been trapped on boats that sank. Police are knocking on the doors in a southern suburb of Canberra, Australia, and warning people to get ready in case they have to leave their homes. A wildfire sparked by a military helicopter helping firefighting efforts is burning out of control and threatening homes on the outskirts of Australia's capital. The fire started yesterday afternoon and has already grown to 8,000 hectares. Well, here in southern Alberta, we've been having spring-like weather all week, but will it last? A complete look at the weather forecast is coming up right after the break. Stay with us. And welcome back. Here's a look at our weather highlights for today and tomorrow in Lethbridge. Today, high of 5 degrees, lots of sunshine, mix of scattered clouds. They're low of -5 overnight, and into tomorrow, another lovely day, high of 8 degrees. Wind not as horrible as it has been, gusting to 40, which isn't as bad as those 60 that we have been seeing. Up ahead for the 5 days, lots of sunshine expected on Thursday, 7-degree high. And then Friday, we could climb back up to that double-digit temperature. We'll be seeing a 10-degree high. On Saturday and Sunday, could see some precipitation, rain on Saturday, a 60% chance there, 13-degree high. And 1 degree expected for Sunday, -7 expected on Monday with 60% chance of flurries for both of those days. Highs and lows for this time of year, 1 is the average high, minus 13 the average low. The high temperature on this day was 14 degrees. It was in 1988, and the lowest temperature was recorded in 1969. It was minus 38. Sun rose this morning at 10 after 8 and will set at 5:18 p.m., giving us a little bit longer of daylight as we get closer and closer to summer. Looking across the nation, the West Coast, Victoria and Vancouver should be seeing some rain today. Highs of 9 degrees in those cities. Lots of sunshine in Calgary and Edmonton. Calgary's high today, 3 degrees, minus 3 expected up in Edmonton. Looking over to the rest of the prairies, Saskatoon's high, minus 3, minus 1 expected in Regina. Snow is expected in both of those cities, as well as Winnipeg, with their high being minus 8 today, and they should see some snow there as well. Now, looking further east in our country, Toronto's high, 1 degree with the chance of flurries. Flurries expected in all of this whole region here. Minus 2, the high in Ottawa, minus 1, the high in Montreal. And looking even further east, going into Atlantic Canada, Fredericton's high today, minus 3, minus 2 expected in Halifax. Both of those areas expecting snow with actually sunshine, scattered clouds, and chance of precipitation there. Snow expected up in Charlottetown today with a high of minus 1. Same thing for St. John's, Newfoundland. Minus 1 is the high, and they could see some snow. There you go. That's your forecast. Here's a look at your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. Men young and old alike are invited to come join the Lethbridge Christian Men's Choir. Practices are held every Thursday from 7:30 to 9 p.m. at Trinity Reformed Church. The choir practices are in preparation for spring concerts, as well as occasional performances at the hospital and seniors' homes. For more information, call 403-328-7985. Night to Shine is an event sponsored by the Tim Tebow Foundation and hosted by My Victory Lethbridge on Friday, February 7th. Night to Shine is an unforgettable prom night experience for people with special needs, ages 14 and older. This complimentary event begins on a red carpet with guests receiving the royal treatment, including hair and makeup stations, limousine rides, a catered dinner, and much more. For details and to register, visit myvictory.ca. And if you'd like to volunteer, email carol@myvictory.ca. Celebrate Family Day at the Galt Museum and Archives for their second annual free pancake brunch. Taking place on February 17th, beginning at 10 a.m., come and enjoy delicious pancakes, music, crafts, and games. And while you're there, check out the exhibits and complete a special treasure hunt. Admission is free. For more information, visit galtmuseum.com/events. And that's your Bridge City News community calendar.
In the world of entertainment, the 2020 Juno nominations are being announced this morning. Daniel Caesar, Avril Lavigne, and Carly Rae Jepsen are all expected to receive nominations for the awards, which will be handed out on March 15th in Saskatoon. Jan Arden is being inducted into the Canadian Music Hall of Fame at this year's ceremony as well. An Alberta man and his family are doing whatever they can to help him find a new kidney. So they're advertising on billboards that read, "Jim really needs a new kidney." Jim Lamond was born with kidney problems, and after a couple of transplants, his last one failed 4 years ago. He says now he needs 4 hours of dialysis 5 days a week. Lamond also has a rare B negative blood type, which adds to the challenge, and says he just wants to have a normal life again.
When they found out I needed a transplant, they phoned us and said, "We'll do up a billboard." They put it up, and they have the billboard up. They also have it on putting on 60 Highway 9 trucks, and also on the boards of the Drumella Arena. There's a lot of people waiting. There is. And it makes a big difference. It's, as you said, it's demoralizing to know that you're on a machine to keep you alive.
Kidney transplants usually last about 10 years. The leader of the Christian Association of Nigeria was kidnapped at the beginning of January and then executed last week. Boko Haram has claimed responsibility. The victim, Lawan Adimi, was also the pastor of the Brethren Church in the town of Makika. Journalist Greg Musselman, who is with Voice of the Martyrs, joined Hal Roberts to discuss if Boko Haram was looking for a ransom, or was it just because Lawan Adimi was a pastor?
Suspicion is that he was, kidnapped, and perhaps they were looking for a ransom, which of course they're always looking for money. But I think, in the situation that, we hear about that is that it may very well have been their intent to continue to, have fear running through the Christian community. I mean, it was very public. I mean, it's one of these stories that when I heard about it, I immediately posted it on my social media, said we really need to be praying for this guy. And for those that saw the video, I mean, he was pleading for his life. But he also understood, and his quote was very powerful, God is still alive. Don't cry, don't worry. Thank God for everything. And he knew in that moment that he could be killed. And his faith, of course, was very strong. But it still sickens us when one of our brothers in Christ is killed in this way. And I mean, it just, again, you just say, how evil can these people be? But yet in the midst of all that evilness, how you see this amazing faith of this man who now, of course, leaves behind children and a widow, many friends, and he was a community leader, in his area. So it's a devastating situation, but, whether Boko Haram actually were going to release him, because there was some reporting that they were looking for a third party to be able to, take this pastor, get the ransom money, and release him.
How dangerous is it for the Christian community in Nigeria right now?
It's getting worse. I've been there several times, reported from there a year ago or less than a year ago, and met widows there that have lost their husbands, children lost their dads. I mean, even this week we heard of 2 teenage Christian girls in Nigeria that were killed, murdered in another attack. And, and then we also heard not that long ago that 12 Christian men had been captured and they were killed. And it was a revenge killing for a top ISIS leader. So, I mean, the situation is getting worse, and they are sending a strong message to the Christians of Nigeria that if you don't convert, or if you, continue to do your work in the church and, try to reach people with Jesus, this is the same fate that you will have.
What can Christians do here in Canada to help those in volatile regions around the world?
Well, first and foremost, we need to pray. And, and again, it's a challenge because when we are praying, and I know that there were, I would think literally millions of people, praying for Pastor Lawan, and then to still see him be killed is devastating. But we need to continue to do that. And then as organizations like the Voice of the Martyrs, we're partnering, with Christian Solidarity Worldwide, in Nigeria, to help widows and families. So, we'll continue to do that. Organizations that work with persecuted Christians in Nigeria, to encourage them, saying we're praying for them and supporting them. And, continue to remind our government that, you need to continue to put pressure on the Nigerian government to do something about this horrible situation so that the Christians will be protected and they'll have the freedom to worship freely.
That was journalist Greg Musselman with Voice of the Martyrs. Thanks so much, Greg.
Thanks, Hal. Thanks for the concern.
Integrating politics in the classroom can be damaging, especially when the ideology is one-sided. That's according to a Manitoba high school teacher and author, Michael Zwagstra. Hal Roberts has that interview coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.